Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of the Roaring Agents podcast. Today, I am here with Amy Donaldson. She is author and real estate coach. And I just hit my laptop and made a weird crashing noise. She wrote the book, Get Off the Cash Flow Roller Coaster. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Your book is powerful. It's concise. One of the things that I hate with books, I do this a lot. I love to read, and people take an article and try to turn it into a book.
Yes.
And it just wastes my friggin' time when the article was good enough. You've made this super concise. I'm not scared by how thick it is, that it's going to take me forever to read it.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
How long did it take you to write this, besides the many grueling years in real estate?
Right. Start to finish from when I actually got serious, said I'm going to write a book. I'd say it was about 18 months, maybe a little bit longer. That includes all of everything that hit the cutting room floor.
Of course. So you started in real estate right when it was all kind of ugly and crazy. What year did you start?
Yes, I started I got licensed in 2006, but I technically didn't start until 2007. A common story, right? Being licensed a year before.
I think the people who started right about that time are some of the strongest real estate agents.
I agree.
They had to walk into a complete and utter mess. And typical real estate training did not apply to anything going on in real estate. You had to figure out short sales. You had to understand. I mean, we had inventory. I think RMLS had it at 19 months of inventory.
At one point, yeah.
Yeah. Right now we're at 0.8, 0.9 months of inventory.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. And to anyone who doesn't know kind of the significance of that, a neutral market, what is 5?
5 to 6. Yeah.
5 to 6 months. So it was crazy.
So you right off the bat in your book, you talk about gratitude. Tell me why gratitude's important. I actually had a new agent asking how gratitude matters at all in real estate and how that is going to help them function as a real estate agent. And they were having trouble. I want scripts. I want tactics. I want this. So talk a little bit about gratitude.
Yeah. Wow. Great question. One of the things, so actually something that I recently heard, so it's not in the book, but it's that whatever you appreciate appreciates. Mm-hmm. So just listen to that word, appreciation, right? Appreciation can mean gratitude, or it can mean an increase in value. And I would argue that those are not two different definitions. That in appreciation, gratitude and increase in value are really the same thing. And I know that whatever I have, if I'm grateful for it, it is more valuable than the things I have that I take for granted or feel entitled to. So I think that in life in general, when we feel entitled or we take things for granted, we devalue them. And when we're grateful, we increase the value. And I think this goes for our business, our clients. I think what I talk about specifically in the book when, because there was a point as a single mom in 2008 when, I'd work hard to get a listing, and instead of selling it, it would get foreclosed. I'm thinking, holy cow, I'm going to get foreclosed. Like I need to, or you'd work really hard to get your buyer under contract and they'd lose their job. So, I mean, real estate was hard. When it was hard, it was hard. But there was a point when I would make my phone calls, or I would approach my business from a place of desperation. And I'm sure there's a lot of agents who can relate to that, either at some point in their career or maybe even right now, right? And when the shift happened for me, and I was like, holy cow, I need to be grateful that I have this license and this opportunity. And before making a phone call, rather than if they're for sale by owner, for example, rather than desperate for them to let me in their home and hopefully list with me, but instead grateful that they put that signal up, right? They put a for sale by owner sign in their yard, which identified them as a homeowner needing to sell. Like, thank you, so that we can come into contact. And now it's an opportunity either to help them with their sale if they're not able to get it done on their own, or if they are, help them with their next purchase. Or if they don't need that, ask them for referrals. It's like the ideas kept coming. Whereas when I was coming from a place of desperation, the only thing on the table was selling their house. But if you were listening, I just mentioned 3 things, right? Either getting their house sold, helping them with their next purchase, or asking for referrals, which PS is a lot more lucrative than people realize. You wouldn't believe how many people ask when someone tries to sell their home on their own. You wouldn't believe how many of their friends and family come to them for real estate advice. They have a lot of referrals. So there's a free tip. But yeah, I'm really passionate about gratitude. And I think I even talk in there, just a little bit about my personal faith. I believe, we all know that if you have faith, like, prayer is when you're reaching out, but I really think that the language is gratitude. I think that's the language where God connects to us. And I think that's the language that is gratitude. So it's something I'm very passionate about. So thank you for leading with that great question.
Well, you did mention gratitude is where you partner with God.
Yeah, I do.
I like that you're partnering with whatever you believe. You're partnering with that because for some people, gratitude's hard, especially if they've been in a bad place. And that idea that for some, gratitude is just about, I put it out there, so I'm getting the goodwill or whatever. But that idea that you're partnering with higher power, the universe, the flow, whatever you want to call it, that idea that you're getting connected. I really like that. And I also appreciate where you said that you made your prospecting calls from a place of gratitude rather than desperation. And some people call that commission breath or whatever. There's that thing of like, I need this. And when people relax and they're just themselves, the authentic self, they have a better shot than whatever you need. I'll do this. I'll do it all.
Totally. And it's a complete, and so now in my coaching career, it's how I approach every single conversation with any potential client is from a space of gratitude. And when I made that shift in my real estate career, everything changed, because you're right. People can smell that commission breath, right? They can smell it, they can feel it. And when you approach with a sense of gratitude, when you're grateful to have the conversation, whether they hang up on you or invite you into their home, if you're just grateful for that opportunity, you become a breath of fresh air, and everything changes. It is. And I wrote that about partnering with God because I believe it. It's where everything, all the roadblocks just disappear. Everything just opens up in front, and it's like magical. And I know for me, shifting from desperation to gratitude felt magical. It just seemed like miracles started happening. I finally was getting listings that would sell and that would close. And at a point in time when, either the 2 biggest risks was the home would be foreclosed before you hit your closing date, or the buyer would lose their job before. Like, those were real risks. And we were always racing the clock on those 2 things. To start having transactions where that wasn't happening it was magical. And the only thing I can credit it to is that shift in my energy and what I was drawing towards me, and what came into my awareness.
That was a hard time, right? You were
Yes.
going through transitions. How did you just flip that switch for yourself?
So, the one event kind of that really opened my eyes to, I'm sure it was a series of things, but the one I talk about in the book, I was getting on the I-5, And, I lived in Tualatin, which is out in the suburbs. And as we all know, back then, there were not very many homeless people. There was a woman sitting there with a sign. And, I was probably, I don't know if I was 2 months or 3 months behind on my mortgage, but I was definitely behind. And I know, and it was scary because when you're a mom and you are like, well, I'm going to use the little money I have to buy groceries. You feel like this pressure. And I remember seeing that woman and thinking, what really is the difference between her and me, and how far in my future is that? And it was the first time I had really like consciously thought about it. And what really would happen if I got foreclosed and started getting those notices. And what I realized is that there was no way, I started realizing all the family members I have that would have helped me, whether, there were people in my family who certainly had the means to, loan me the money to pay my mortgage, but other people who maybe didn't have those kinds of finances, but would certainly take me in, and when I really thought about it and thought that there was literally no way that I could become homeless. Like that wasn't even in the most remote possibility. It was humbling, and it put me in a situation. And I guess just seeing her and realizing that like, that's really as bad as it gets, and that there's no way, because I had these amazing people in my life. And that's a lot to be grateful for. I mean, my situation was still scary, but in that moment, and realizing I did not have one more dollar in my bank account, there was not one thing tangible that was different except for my perspective. And I remember just going home that night and just thinking like, I'm actually very, very fortunate, because not everybody has family that would take them in. Not everybody has people. I mean, clearly, or there wouldn't be homeless people, right? Not everybody is that. And it was humbling. And when I started recognizing that, and I remember the next day, like things really started to change for me. And I can very specifically say it's the gratitude. It's for sure. And we all have, anybody listening to this podcast obviously has internet, or like at the bare minimum, right? They're probably not homeless. They have a lot to be grateful for. Every one of us has so much to be grateful for. And we don't even realize it. We're too busy complaining about what somebody said that we found offensive, or that I mean, it's like the things that we argue about, when at the end of the day, we're all so blessed and so fortunate. And it's when you look at everything that, and I mean, and I'm a believer, right? So, and I know not everybody is, but when I look at everything, the way, from my perspective, it's what God has blessed me with. And to not recognize that, it's like, why would he want to give me more until I say thank you for what I already have been blessed with?
That was actually the line I think I was trying to find quickly in here, was something along those lines, where it's something along that. I really like that. How can you, oh,
I wonder if I could find it.
it was something of just, I mean, you pretty much said it, but that idea that, saying thanks for those things,
I think I know what, I don't know exactly where it is, but I know what you're talking about, is that I do talk in here about when
oh, there it is. I made the mistake of praying beseechingly to God, asking God to fix my problems. This kind of thinking is out of alignment with the love of the universe. God had already provided for me. The only prayer I needed to pray is one of thanksgiving. I love that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I think, where I was saying with the gratitude is like, well, we put it out there. I'm grateful for this. So hopefully I see more and get more. And you were saying, look, quit asking to solve my problems. I'm just thankful I have what I have. And it just starts there. And there's a humility to that line of thinking that I appreciate.
It's not, dear God, show me the money, right? It's thank you for everything. And it really is the difference between going to God with your quote unquote big problems, or facing your problems with your quote unquote big God. Right. And when you take these, seemingly huge problems and be like, God, fix this for me, or fix that for me, you're giving power and energy to the problem versus facing your problem. You don't take your problem and ask God to fix it. That's not what God does. What God does is gives us the ability to fix it, right? And when you turn around and face your problem with your big God at your back, everything moves out of your way. It has to. It absolutely has to, because it has all of these problems that we have. They have no power of their own. They have no power other than that which we assign them. And I believe that with every fiber of my being. And I know that sounds a little woo-woo to some people.
Sure. Well, and any good management book says, have your people, if they come to you with a problem, they come with two solutions. If they're, it's similar thing. It's funny. One day I was working on a website and I had a buddy who helped me. He can build websites from the bottom up, and I'd reach out to him and I go, "Hey, what's this?" He goes, "Read the instructions." I'm like, "Yeah, but they left a gap. It doesn't make sense here." And I could tell he was annoyed with me. And not 30 minutes later, my mom called me and said, "Hey, how do I send an email?" And then I'm kind of annoyed, like, this is so silly. I went, whoa, I'm on both ends of this. I'm being the person going, hey, help me. And I'm not going to go figure it out, to going to the other person. Like, I've told you this. Why is this? Because if we're just going with problems, you're just going to wait for the answer and not do the work. And I think one of your things is go do the friggin' work. I think that's,
and be grateful for the ability to do it.
Yeah.
Right. That's not a burden. Our work is not a burden. Our work is what gives meaning to our lives. Our work is what gives us purpose. That's something to be grateful for. So not just like, I want money to fall out of the sky, right? But wow, thank you that I have the ability, I have this license or whatever it is, right? Whether you're a real estate agent or if you're a loan originator, you've got your NMLS, right? And you have contacts. And even if you don't have a local sphere, because I mean, there's a lot of agents who I coach who say, I don't have a sphere. I just moved to whatever area they're in. Okay. Well, there's doors to knock on. There's people to call. There's ways of generating without spending a dollar. Sure, there's ads on Facebook and there's other internet ways to generate, that cost a little bit of money and some that cost a lot of money. But there's so many ways that don't cost a dime. It's just, but here's the thing that I've noticed with real estate agents, usually the less money you have, the more time you have to invest.
Right.
So do it, go do the things. And as you get busier, you won't have time for that anymore, but now you'll have the money to spend on generating whether it's a postcard campaign or an online campaign or whatever, is when your time starts shrinking, your income is growing. So there's a relationship there, but you don't need to spend any money to grow your business initially. You need to be willing to make phone calls, and you need to be thankful. You really do, because people can hear it in your voice when you approach with the wrong energy.
I agree. I think energy is very important. And I like the energy you brought with the title of chapter 1.
Oh,
smart goals are stupid. So I think you have an opinion about smart goals.
Threw it out there.
I just like you just saying, hey, this is how this book's going to go. So tell me what your take on SMART, the acronym SMART goals.
Yes, thank you. And that was actually, I have to give props to my coach who was coaching me at the time, Patrick Lyons, because I was a little bit afraid, because I know a lot of people are a big fan of the acronym SMART. So for anyone listening that may not be familiar with the acronym, it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and trackable. Or some people say the T is time bound. So the issue I have with the SMART system, and I think I preface it in there, if someone's in management and they are tasked with setting goals for their team, I think that this is where the acronym is appropriate, right? If you're in a corporate setting, or even you're a team leader and you want to tell your people, okay, I need you, everyone, your goal is, two closings a month or whatever. When you're putting it on someone else, they should be bite-sized. And the reason that they're appropriate as a management tool and not for a person and not for a personal goal, it's really the same thing. As a personal goal, our goals should scare us. They should, I think they should terrify us. So the issue I have with SMART goals is this idea of being attainable and realistic. If something is attainable and realistic, it's really just a benchmark, right? That is yours for the taking. That's just get off your butt, go do the thing and get that, which is why as a management tool, you can call it a goal if you want. It really is still just a benchmark, right? Like, here's what you need to do. It's not appropriate to set a lofty goal that might not be attainable for somebody else, right? So when I'm talking in the context of this book, I'm talking about your own personal goals and reaching for the stars. I believe that so many people are not fulfilled in their life because they set goals too small and hit them. And their fear is that if they set a goal too big and miss. But the thinking is backwards, because you should never fear that. And I think the problem is they confuse their purpose with their goal. Does that make sense?
Talk a little bit more about that.
So your purpose is that's what brings life into everyone. When someone doesn't have a purpose, your purpose is, your reason for existing. You need a purpose. Goals. So the purpose of a goal isn't necessarily to hit the goal or to hit it on the first try, right? The purpose of a goal is the personal growth that you're going to experience along the way. And that's the problem that I have with these SMART goals that are attainable and realistic. Something's attainable and realistic, there is zero personal growth. All it takes is just the gumption to get up and do the thing, right? Go make your phone calls or whatever it is. But a really juicy goal it's going to require growth. It's going to require you to become, a goal should be something that you literally cannot achieve with your current level of thinking, your current abilities, your current anything really, right? Your current habits. A really juicy goal that's fun, because then it's all about the chase. And people always ask, the thing is that they're like, well, I didn't want to set this because I didn't want to disappoint myself, right? Or what? But you know what the biggest disappointment is setting a goal too low and hitting it. That's disappointing. When you set a goal really big and then you chase after it with everything you have, that's exciting. There's no disappointment. It doesn't even matter if you hit the goal. That's exciting just to try. That's exciting. Right? Anybody who's ever really gone for something and left it all out there, like you look at Academy Award nominees, that's an honor. They didn't win, or we'd call them Academy Award winners. That's a whole separate group. But in the eyes of most people, if you see, Academy Award nominated actor, blah, 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 or Academy Award winner, but those are almost synonymous in most people's minds. Right? Now, obviously, on the night of the award ceremony, you want to be the one walking home with the trophy, obviously, right? Like that feels much better. But nobody's ever disappointed with themselves for going after something and like, well, it would have been better if I had just not been nominated and nobody knew who I was. No, they put literally, when you see Academy Award nominated, nominees or whatever, or from previous years, they're that's still like a badge of honor. They put that there. The Academy didn't put that on their stuff. They put it on there, right? Academy nominated director, blah, 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 blah. Going after big, juicy stuff changes you. And a lot of the winners were nominees from previous years, right? That's how goals work. You go for it, you don't hit it. You go for it, you don't hit it. You go for it, you hit it. You're going to hit it eventually. But if a goal doesn't require divine intervention and or personal growth and or new habits and or any of these, it's not a goal. It's not. And the people chasing these things, they have this, I think I call it in there, that the dull ache of mediocrity. That's what that is. That's what that is. And so many, it's like for me, when I said, I don't want to sell real estate. I want to be a coach. I want to coach real estate agents. I want to coach. It's what I have felt my calling was. You think that wasn't scary? I was making a lot of money as a real estate agent, multiple six-figure income. And to walk away from that and say, there of course was the voice of doubt saying, nobody's going to hire you. Who do you think you are? And to say, I'm going to write a book. You think there wasn't a voice in my head that said, who's going to read it? Of course there was. It was scary, right? But I did it. And now it's like second nature to like, yeah, I am an author. But all those things were scary. And that's how you know that's your goal, right? And when people set these goals to say, well, I think I can increase my volume by 15% this year. It's like, are you kidding me? The market's going to go up by at least that much. You can do nothing and hit that. That's not a goal. That doesn't excite me to help you do that. You want to double your income? Well, let's talk, right? You want to do something really exciting, or you want to go from being an independent agent to building out a team or owning a brokerage or whatever it is. Let's talk. Like, you want to start doing something, or you're a brokerage owner and you're just buried working 100 hours a week and you want time away from, but you don't know how to pull away from it. Let's talk, right? You have something that you want to do that you don't know how to do. I want to help you get there, but I'm not interested in coaching people that just want to like take another small step. And to be clear, I've definitely coached people who go with a goal of 100,000, but not if they're already making 80,000, right? Like, because no matter what the goal is, it has to be big and scary to the person setting it, right? If you've never made more than 30,000, or you've never done, you've never worked outside the home or whatever it is, and want to clear six figures, that's a big goal, right? But if you want to go from like 90 to 100.
So how do you know that someone is really, really wanting the goal versus going, oh my God, I'm talking to Amy, so I need to have a crazy goal. Otherwise she's going to think I'm crazy. So I'm going to sell 2 million homes this year. How do you know it's a real goal for them versus just saying it to sound good, to sound like this is what I think I should be saying? How do you dive down with someone?
That's a really good question. So it's interesting because I don't think that a lot of people approach a conversation with me thinking that I'm going to tell them their goals are too small. Like, I don't think that people kind of like fake it. And in fact, it's the opposite, right? Like, people usually dial their goal down and they openly admit it, right? They'll say, well, I sold 10 homes last year. So I was thinking I wanted to do 20 next year, but I don't want to disappoint myself. So 15. Or what they'll actually say when I ask them what their goal is, they'll say 15. And I'll say, how did you arrive at that? And that's what they'll say. That, well, I wanted to do 20, but that's double. And I didn't want to disappoint myself. So I just challenge their thinking on that. Right. And if they're not willing to move from that, they can still enroll in coaching. I'm probably not going to be the one for them. Right. That's not going to be a good match. But most people, if they've reached out to a coach, here's the thing, it doesn't feel good to go after something smaller. Right? Just because you don't want to disappoint yourself. So most people, when you challenge them on that and go, well, what if you could do 20? Like, what would that look like? And what would be more disappointing, right? You said you don't want to disappoint yourself. Would you be more disappointed if you went for 20 and only sold 18? or more disappointed if you went for 15 and sold 15? Like, what's a bigger most people answer those questions the right way. They're like, oh, I never thought about it like that. Right. And a lot of times by the time I'm done with them, they're like, so could I do 30? I want, like usually they're kind of heading in the other direction. So I don't think I've ever come across someone that is just saying a bigger goal.
Yeah. I think because I've been director of sales on a team where I'm setting goals with the agents, that I get a little bit of that, where they tell me the number they think I want to hear. And I'm like, is that the real number? Is that because there also has to be some commitment in there.
Yeah.
And some people want to sound big and bad and say, I want to hit, hundreds of $1,000s, or I want to do whatever. And they've never sold a house.
Yeah.
So I want to sell 50 homes. Like, okay, good. And are you willing to do this, this, and this? Let's go for the first month and see where you're at with this crazy goal. Cause it comes down to the work. And kind of my take on it is the goal is to give you that, the reason, but you really have to be committed to the process.
That's right.
Without the process, you're not getting anywhere. Well,
and another thing that's really common when I talk to an agent that maybe is brand new, a common thing will be that their goal will be like 8 or 10 houses, right? My goal is and they think that's a big goal because they've been told that most agents sell 4 houses or 6 houses their first year.
Yeah.
Right. So they think, okay, I'm going to go for 10. And they think that they're being lofty and to some degree they are, right. And I think that if your first year you end up selling 10 or 8 or whatever, that's fabulous. That's great. But it's really too low for a goal. And the reason is because of this question. If your goal is 10, I always ask them this, which 2 months is your goal 0?
I love that.
Thank you. I mean, I love that too, because it really gets them thinking. And usually what they say is, well, I was told most agents only sell 6 their first year. I'm like, right. To end up selling 6, to have a month where you don't sell a house, or 2 months or whatever, like that'll happen. And that's okay. But is that a goal? My goal is 0 houses this month. So if you're brand new, or even if you're not brand new, your minimum goal, in my opinion, should be 12 houses, 1 a month, right? I mean, unless you can honestly tell me, oh, we are in the Caribbean the entire month of December, so I won't be working. That's one of my months, right? Like if you can answer that question, these 2 months, and here's why, and you have a really good reason why, right? Or your kid's going in for surgery and it's going to be 3 weeks of recovery, and but you're not going to sell a house that month. Okay. Which is why I asked the question instead of just saying, no, that's too low. Right? Which if their goal is 10, which 2 months is your goal 0? And if that's the first time they thought about that, we need to ratchet that up to 12 so that their goal is at every month, you should have a goal of selling at least 1 house. And especially in your first year, that might not happen but again, to what we were talking about before, the purpose isn't to hit the goal. The purpose is to chase the goal, to give you something to do every single month, every single day. If your goal is 0, 2 of the 12 months of the year, that doesn't give you a lot of action, right? So having that goal of 1 house a month gives you activity phone calls you need to make, activity that you need to hit. And it's about the activity, not the results. So it's about the chasing it. And I always say this about a leap of faith. It's about the leap. It's not about the landing. Take a leap, take a good solid leap, and you'll land somewhere fine. You'll hit the goal. You won't hit the goal, whatever. Take the leap.
So a lot of people, I think, see coaches and leaders as kind of like sports coaches.
Yes.
You have a goal, you're going to get yelled at. There's going to throw a chair if you miss it. And I remember someone, high level leader of a large real estate company. And he's like, okay, if you didn't hit your goals, get over it. You got how, it was July 1st. He goes, get over it. That's done. Now you focus on this. Because sometimes people let that get into their head that they failed. And I think you
Right.
talk about, kind of like failure and what that is. And you've talked about that some is how do you, how do you balance the let it go, but don't give up kind of like, was the goal real? Was it not? We're still pushing. Don't let
Yeah.
it weigh you down. You still need to move forward. How do you balance that with someone?
Well, I think it's to always look forward, right? So I don't remember who said this, but that your windshield is larger than the rear view mirror for a reason, right? Look forward, keep your eyes, glance back. So you're glancing back for the lessons. What did I learn? You don't dwell in the past. You don't dwell on don't beat yourself up over it, right? Learn from it. What could I have done differently? What could I have done better? What do I know now that I didn't know then? How can I, like when I figured out to start asking for sale by owners for referrals, that was game changing. It was game changing for me. Right. And just through looking back and thinking about some of the conversations that I had, I was like, yeah, because someone had mentioned advice that he had given, and I thought about it and I was like, oh, a lot of the for sale by owners that I had talked to had talked about their friends asking them for advice. And I was like, yeah, they know who's going to sell. Those people, when they want to sell their house, they don't come talk to a real estate agent because they're afraid they're going to get like sold. But they'll talk to Joe down the street, he's selling his own house. He probably knows everything there is to know about. Go ask him, what you should do to your kitchen or your front door or whatever. Like that's literally, but it took looking back over, so glance back, but focus forward and think about, you don't dwell on all these people you could have gotten, but you just go, oh, this is what I listen for in the future and parlay that into referrals. And the same thing with any goal that you don't hit. Well, and even to the 10 houses a month thing, right? If you end up without a closing in a month, if you sell 8 houses your first year, that's amazing. And it's not amazing as a goal, right? So I guess that's how you balance it, is by looking forward and being proud of everything you did. And if you did everything you could to hit that goal, I feel like those are not the people beating themselves up, right? I've never beat myself up after something that when I really tried. Like you'll feel that sting initially, but if you really know in your heart that you did everything you could, you're left with a feeling that it just wasn't in the cards for you. And you're able to pick yourself up and go for it again, right? And all of the skills that you have, whether it's prospecting or making your phone calls or even writing the contract or the verbiage on the addendums, every single skill that you're building a muscle, right? And every time, in this particular market where there's multiple offers, when you're writing offers, you get better and better at writing strong offers, at figuring out what the sellers are looking for, not just in the sales price, but what terms are they looking for? What's really attractive to them? And you get better and better at explaining to your buyers what is attractive to sellers and why they should write the offer this way, not that way. You start getting better at each one of these things so that moving forward, your odds increase. A lot of real estate agents think if they write an offer on a house and they're 1 out of 10 offers, they believe that they have a 1 in 10 chance of getting it. And there's some logic there. And so if there's only 4 offers, they have a better chance, right? But that's actually not true. If you don't have a lot of practice writing offers and you don't have a lot of at-bats and you're not working with enough people, there could be just 2 offers and you don't have a very good chance of getting it. Whereas if you have strong skill, I mean, there's one gal that I was working with, because we track everything in coaching. So there's one client who was writing 10 offers per client before getting a house accepted. And we worked on a couple of key conversations. The way she introduces herself to the listing agent, the questions she asks there, also being quick and respecting their time, right? Not expecting them to call her back or right? Like figuring out like what actually should be a text versus a phone call, so that the listing agent has a good experience, and how to communicate with the buyers, how they should craft the offer, and really being their consultant. And we got her numbered all the way down to where now she only has to write 4 offers per client.
Wow.
That literally saves her more than 50% of her time, because we all know that writing an offer takes a lot of time, but more than that, it's the showing of the houses, the houses you have to show to write, and the buyer fatigue. There's a lot of buyers that after 7 or 8 are like, I'm out. I'm just going to rent for a while. Right. So you're in the danger zone. If you're writing more than 6 offers for a client, you're really in danger that they're going to go rent something and sign a lease somewhere.
It's happening a lot. And I think this market softening right now is due to that. Mm-hmm. The people got beat up, March through June or July. And they're like, you know what? I'm on vacation. I'm just done with this because it was so ugly. Now I'm seeing homes sit on the market longer. Mm-hmm. There's less multiple offers, but I think that's just because a lot of buyers got fed up.
They'll be back.
They will be back.
Interest rates don't go up. Those same people, they'll be back in like October, November, maybe even September.
Another point in your book that was a really good reminder for me was essentially, would you hire you?
Yes.
And I think that's just a great way to look at it. Are you doing the stuff that a good employee would be doing? Because you are your own employee until you're paying other people to do it for you.
That's right. Yeah, that was the Think Like a Boss chapter. Well, that actually was one of my favorite and most fun chapters to write. And it actually came from, I used to teach the licensing course out at Clackamas Community College. And a lot of people would tell me when I would ask, like, why are you here? Why are you getting a license? What's going on? That one of the big motivations was to be their own boss. And that comes from people who have had bosses that they didn't appreciate, right? Bosses that told them what to do too much. And when I thought about that, and then just from listening to people, they wanted to be their own boss because they wanted this like cool, lenient boss that didn't expect anything of them. So the danger there is that's not self-employed, that's unemployed. That is. So yeah, think of yourself as your own employee. Good help is hard to find. So if you could hire the perfect, like what would the perfect employee be? Right?
Show up on time.
Did I say on time? Or I think I said early.
Early. There it is. Enthusiastic about all tasks and serves the client well. And I was like, oh, wow, that's right. I need to be more enthusiastic. Shows up early and well rested. Stays late when needed. Comes up with new ideas to improve business. Encourages others. Super efficient. My gosh, there are so few agents who fit so much of this.
Right.
Even the successful ones, but still.
Yeah.
But I think especially a new agent, because I get, kind of like what you're saying. So many people get in this. I want a flexible schedule. Why? Mm-hmm. Does that mean you're only going to work 10 hours? I mean, I liken real estate to an airplane taking off.
Yep.
It takes a lot of fuel. You're shaking. You think you may die. But if you keep at it, you're going to be at cruising altitude. You can't cruise, though, until you get up there. And if you pull back on the throttle too early, you're going to crash. But It takes a lot of effort to get going. And so many people want to do easy effort immediately.
Yeah, they want the part where you can just coast and turn on the cybernetics and the autopilot.
You mentioned, I wrote down wealth mindset. I forgot exactly what you said in that part, but let's start with what you meant by that.
Okay, the wealth mindset. Okay, a lot of people have a lot of head trash around money.
Yeah.
That is actually, so when I sat down and wrote this book, I thought the chapter on goals was going to be the most controversial, right? Especially the title. But really I get more messages about that chapter. People literally, well, I've had people text me saying, wow, I'm reading your book and I'm feeling a little convicted right now. I've had people, like, I've gotten that text message actually more than once. So people need to really take a look at, do you use phrases like filthy rich? Do you think money is dirty? Because if you do, you're not attracting it to you, right? Most people have a poverty mindset and they don't even know it. Something that I discovered, there's actually a lot of books on improving your mindset around money, and which I studied greatly and worked hard to improve mine. What no one tells you is once you've improved your mindset, the money will come, but some of your friends and family have not improved their mindset. And there is a belief that, and maybe people listening might hold some of these beliefs. So, I encourage you to challenge these beliefs, but there's a belief that rich people don't care about anyone but themselves. That rich people, somehow have they've taken somebody else's piece of the pie to get there. And the problem with thinking this way is that if you're not the type of person to want it, well, first of all, if you are the type of person where you're like, great, I'll just go take someone else's piece of the pie, you're going to learn that actually doesn't work, right? Because you take somebody else's piece of the pie, they want it back. So it actually is just a false thing. But if you believe it and you feel like you're not the type of person to go take something that you didn't earn, which I think this is the more common, you've kind of put a block in your way because you've said that this is the path to wealth and I'm not the type of person to take that path. So your brain isn't looking for another path. The path to wealth is to serve people, to focus on providing value. When you are providing value, people are drawn towards you and money is drawn to you. Money is attracted to value. Money follows value. So you focus on providing value, not taking somebody else's piece of the pie, right? But you focus on providing value and the money will follow. The money isn't really what people think it is. It's just a measurement of, and once you get out of your way and you really start believing that you're worthy of it, that you do deserve it, that it's not dirty, there's nothing filthy about being rich. The next mountain to climb is, we all have friends and family who still think that way, right? I know that I did, and I had friends that kind of vilified me. And basically what they would say is that I thought I was better than them, which there was no part of me that thought I was better than anybody. I was really proud that I had gone from being a broke single mom to being able, when I had a 9-year-old, right? When I had a 16-year-old, I was able to buy her a car, like just pay for it, not finance it, just pay for it. And when she crashed that car, I bought her another one, which may or may not, that may or may not have been good parenting, but from a financial perspective, it's a complete 180-degree shift, right? Like I know how it feels to stand in line for food stamps and need help like that. And I also know how it feels to clear multiple 6 figures, to pay more in taxes than what I used to earn in an entire year. And I will tell you, it's so much more fun. But the difference too is it's not just more fun to make a lot of money. When I look at my life when I was broke, I wasn't a very good contributor to the community around me, right? I'm a contributor now. I participate and I contribute. and you actually make the world a better place. And the wealth mindset, it's important to get your head around and to confidently know. For me, the biggest shift was, so I had gone from one point to another financially. I did have friends that vilified me for it. And my initial was to be defensive. I'm still the same person. I'm not that way. The real shift was when I stopped feeling it. It clicked one day when I was like, I don't think I'm better than her. She does. Right? She, in her mind, looked at me and thought Amy is better than I am. And she projected that onto me. Now, I disagree with her. I think she was wrong. I don't think but that was her head trash. And
Yeah.
I was getting sucked in to her conversation. But there came a day when I was like, I don't care if she thinks I'm better than her. And I don't care if she thinks that I think I'm better than her. I don't think that. And I'm just going to go on serving people, and hopefully she'll come back around. And what I eventually learned is she wasn't the only one who thought that way. The particular person that I had in mind and had that kind of confrontation with hasn't come around, but most of my friends have. Right? Where most people, they might initially be like, ooh, you're not who I used to know and love. And ooh, this is gross. But eventually they're like, oh, you are still the same. And wait, maybe you can help me. And they want to improve their lives. That's the overwhelming majority. And the people who won't come around, you just kind of have to get over it, to say I'm not responsible for what's inside of her head. I'm responsible for what's inside of my head. And I'm super passionate about sharing this information with as many people who want to listen. But I can't want it for someone more than they want it for themselves. And I can't want it for someone just because, oh, you used to be one of my best friends, and therefore you need to look what I know. You need to know. No, if you're still doing that or trying to convince someone, you're not there yet. You are not there yet. And you are not free from the shackles of that kind of thinking. You're getting sucked into it. And until you can honestly say, the minute that it really registered was when I realized that was her thinking. Right. And when I didn't feel the need to convince anyone, and when it came up with other people, to be able to just casually, there's a difference between no, that's not, no. There's a difference between that and no, you don't understand because, right? And the energy and the essence. So when you can just casually be like, it's not the way it is, but okay. When you can feel that way about somebody else's garbage, even when they're kind of coming at you, you're free. You are free. But as long as you get hooked in and I've had this conversation with a lot of people who are like, yeah, but they said this, or they posted this or they blocked me on, it's like, okay, but I can hear in your voice and the way you're telling the story that you're exercised over it, right? You're not like, oh yeah, and then they blocked me. And so I guess that's not a conversation we're having anymore, right? You're like, but how do I convince them? If you're wondering how to explain something or how to convince someone of something else, you're not free yet.
Right.
Right. And so the wealth mindset has a lot to do with freedom in my mind. And again, it comes back to the alignment, where you're aligning with God or the love of the universe. Because I think what I talk about in the book is if you go out into the country on a summer night and look at the stars, we live in a pretty lavish universe. There's an abundance out there, or if you stand and look out at the ocean, abundance was God's idea. That's not our idea, but we were created to live into that. And I believe that with everything, that there's more than enough, a real estate agent, if you're, I'm guessing your audience is mostly real estate agents and probably mostly in the Portland area. One question I asked myself which actually got things to start shifting for me, I looked around and thought, wow, could I possibly sell all, like just pull up and see how many houses sold last month. You couldn't possibly sell all of them. You couldn't possibly. There's so many. Go find your share. But there's far too many for any one agent to handle them all. There's more than enough. There's like more than enough for everyone to have, everything that they want and need.
I agree. You finished your book in 2017. We're 4 years later, almost 2 years of a pandemic.
Yeah.
What would you change in the book if you had the time, if anything?
That's an excellent question, because I've learned so much since then. One thing that I've learned, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, right? So maybe that's kind of a gross analogy. I shouldn't have said that out loud. Everyone heard it.
It's not a literal phrase. It has to do with trees or something.
Yes. Oh, good. We're not talking about little animals.
No.
But there's a lot of ways to be successful. So some of the strategies that I talk about in the book is what I did and what worked for me. There's a lot of very successful agents that have used different tactics. So I think I would have made that part more clear. The one thing that is consistent through anyone who's successful in real estate or anything is the mindset piece, right? You have to set big goals. You have to have a good relationship with money. You have to have your head screwed on straight. You have to have gratitude. But some of the, I think I talked about setting up a prospecting schedule of 2 hours a day. I've later learned that that's not the time you spend. You need a daily habit of prospecting. But the amount of time is directly tied to what your goals are. So 2 hours a day is what matched my goals and helped me achieve them. Somebody whose goals are half, right? Well, your goals and your skills. So if their goals were half of what my goals were, 1 hour a day would work. Or if their conversion rate was double mine, then only 1 hour. So some of the like real specific tactical things, I think I would have, I don't know if I would have changed them, but I would have made it more clear. I would have articulated that this was my path. Instead, what I wrote was, this is how you do it. Here's your blueprint. That would be the one thing I would change.
Oh, good. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this, and I think people are going to get a lot out of it. Where can people get in touch with you?
So they can find me on they can find me on Facebook, Amy Donaldson. They can find me on Instagram as Amy D Coaching. They can get a free download of the book at getoffthecashflowrollercoaster.com. I don't hide. So if they have an internet connection, they should be able to find me.
If they want to hire you as a coach, where should they go to connect with you there?
You know what? Just send me a private message. If they get a free download of my book, my phone number's on there. But they can message me on any of the platforms or shoot me an email, adonaldson@southwesterncoaching.com. But yeah, just private message me somewhere. It all comes to my phone. So if they have an internet connection, they should be able to get a message to me.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll do this again some point.
Well, thank you, Mike. This is amazing. You're a great interviewer, great host.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.